Hey everyone, I just wanted to shoot a quick video talking about the polygraph. But before I get started, I wanted to touch on three things. First, I know not every firefighter candidate in every jurisdiction out there is going to have to face a polygraph. I know where I live and all the departments around me. I'm in Northeast Ohio, just west of Cleveland. All the departments around in this area, at least the full-time career ones, all require a polygraph, at least that I know of. So I get it, not everyone's going to have to deal with this, but a lot of people will. So if this applies to you, great. I hope this is helpful. If not, just ignore it, forget about it. Second, anything I tell you in this video is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. I am not a certified polygraph examiner. I am not a detective. I'm none of those things. What I am is a person that's had several polygraphs. For those of you that know my story, before I got into fire, I took some police tests and went through the process with a few different departments around the country, some in Georgia, some in Ohio. So I do have a lot of experience as an examinee, as someone that's been examined and taken several polygraphs of both types, the CVSA and the traditional polygraph. And so in this video, I'm just going to kind of give you some of my take and some of the things that I've experienced and some of the things that I've learned, and maybe put you at ease a little bit before you go in for your polygraph. Last, this video is not how to beat the polygraph. Listen, as I talk about in this course, this over being interviewed, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. If you can't be honest about who you are and the things that you've done, then you really might want to rethink what you're doing trying to get into the fire service. Any reasonable person will understand that people make mistakes, people are young, people are immature, people do dumb things. I know I have. Everybody I know has, and I'm sure whoever I'm speaking to, I'm sure you have too. So be honest, this is not supposed to be a how to beat it or anything like that. So moving on, there's going to be two types of polygraphs that you may come in contact with. The first is known as the CVSA, or better known as the Computer Voice Stress Analyzer. So what this is they hook a little microphone up to your shirt, right around, for guys if you're wearing a tie, right around just underneath the knot of your tie. And what they will do is they will ask you questions and you will answer. And supposedly, to my understanding and the things that I've experienced, it monitors the stress in your voice inflections and things like that. And somehow that tells them, based on their graphs, whether or not you're lying or how truthful you're being. The second type that you might come in contact with, which I've also taken, is what would be considered more of a traditional polygraph, where they'll put some sort of monitors on your fingers. They'll put some bands, some tubes around your abdomen and your chest to monitor your breathing. You're sitting on some sort of pressure pad that can sense when you move and things like that. And just like with the CVSA, they'll ask you a series of questions, and based on your answers and your movement and your breathing and your heart rate and various other things that it measures, it will give them a graph that supposedly tells them whether or not you're being truthful or somehow picks up what they believe is deception or honesty. So if you've never had a polygraph before, it can definitely be a stressful event. I remember my first one. I think by the time I was done, I had sweat all the way through my undershirt, my dress shirt, and my suit coat. So it can definitely be an ordeal if you've never had one before. But as far as what to expect, you can usually expect one examiner. All of the polygraphs except for one that I had done was done by the law enforcement jurisdiction in that area, whether it be the actual police department that I was applying to, or whether it be the city's law enforcement for whatever fire department I was applying to. There was one that was done by an outside agency or an outside group that all they did was polygraph. So it depends. Different cities handle it differently, whether they do it in-house or whether they outsource it. So you can expect one examiner. The other thing you can expect from them is, I call it playing good cop or bad cop. I've gotten both. By bad cop, I mean that they go after you with questions. Did you ever do this? Did you ever do that? And they'll be very to the point and very strict. The other one that I call is they play good cop, excuse me, where they will try and be your friend. Hey, I understand that this kind of stuff happens and it's cool. This happened to me and I get it. So just be honest with me and things like that. So just be aware of that. One thing to remember though is their job is not to be your friend. Their job is to find out whether or not you're lying. So keep that in mind while you're answering. They may try and loosen you up. They may try and get you to relax and talk about other things. Don't do it. Stick to the questions and tell them exactly what they are asking. No more, no less. Does it work? There's a lot of controversy on whether or not polygraphs work or whether or not they're admissible in court. And again, like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to speak on the legalities of it and whatnot. But I can say for myself that when I was going through the process with some of the police departments, I was failed on polygraph examinations where I know that I told the truth. And so, in my honest opinion, no, it's a fraud and it doesn't work. So take that for what it is. I've heard many other people say the same thing. I've heard other officers that actually do hiring say that they use the polygraph as a tool to determine find out a little bit more about the background and the honesty and things like that. And that seems like that's all it is. This is just a tool to determine whether or not they think you will be a good candidate for that particular department. Again, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not here to speak on the legalities of it. I'm just giving you my experience. Little bonus though, when you do go to your polygraph examination, wear interview appropriate clothes. So guys, like we talked about in the interview course, wear a suit. Girls, wear a skirt and a blouse or a pantsuit or something like that. Wear business professional clothes. Don't show up in jeans and a t-shirt. This will go a long way, especially if you work in a smaller city. Where I currently work now is a very small city, and the police department is actually attached to the fire department. And I know when I showed up, I wore a suit, and the sergeant that was doing my polygraph was very impressed with the fact that I showed up wearing a suit and made sure and actually relayed that to the chief and the officers at the department that I currently work at, that I showed up in a suit and that I had enough respect for the process and for her to do that. So just as a little bonus, whenever you go to your polygraph, wear the same clothes or the same types of clothes that you would wear to your interview. So how do you handle yourself when you're in there? And I get it. If you've never done this before, it's very stressful, and it's supposed to be. But do your best to stay calm. Breathe. You got nothing to hide, and be honest. Which brings me to my next point, which is be honest. Like I talked about at the beginning of this video, if you can't be honest about who you are and the things that you've done and whatnot, you might want to start considering a different line of work. So tell the truth and answer their questions. Which leads me to my next point, which is be vague. Like I said, they'll ask you questions and try and play off of the answers that you give. Oh, you did that? Well, how many times did you do that? Oh, well, what about this? Do you think you did that? Are you sure you didn't do that? If you don't remember, say, I don't recall. I don't recall. Say yes, say no. Be vague. Answer the question, but be honest. Don't give them more than what they're looking for, which brings me to my fourth point. Answer only the question. This is not the time to engage the polygraph examiner in a conversation or find out anything like that, because again, they're not there to be your friend. They're not there to be your buddy, no matter how friendly they may seem. They're there to try and see if you are lying. Period. Some rookie mistakes to keep in mind when you go for your polygraph examination. Don't try to beat the test. The more you try to do that, the worse you'll probably perform. And second, be honest. Don't be dishonest about it. If you have something to hide or you have a criminal background, chances are they already know about it. And if you've moved on even after the background check to the polygraph, there's a good sign they're still interested in you, because usually the polygraph comes after the background check because it's more expensive. Anyways, don't try and beat the test and just be honest. Any reasonable person will understand that we all make mistakes. We've all done things we're not proud of, and they understand that and they get that. And finally, stay calm even if the polygraph isn't going your way. I remember one particular polygraph exam I had. The examiner was, let's say, less than friendly and was really giving me a hard time during the test, stopping the test, accusing me of doing things to try and change my answers, and it was ridiculous. And part of this whole thing, it is kind of a mind game to see how you react. Stay calm even if it doesn't seem like it's going your way, just because you don't know. Bottom line, like I said at the beginning, and I've said it multiple times, this is not legal advice. I am not your lawyer. Be honest. That's the most important part, not only of the polygraph exam, but one of the most important parts of the job. If you want to be a firefighter, you have to be honest. And finally, we all make mistakes. The chief, the officers, the civil service department, any reasonable person understands that we've done things in the past that we're not proud of. And truthfully, if you're dealing with people that don't understand that, that's probably not a place where you want to work. So hopefully this video helped you out. Hopefully it gave you a little bit more insight on how to answer or what to expect if you've never had one. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at mike@firefighternow.com. I'd be more than happy to help.